This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Well, Cam Skattebo has become the talk of Valley sports. Every once in a while, one of these guys breaks through and just becomes one of those legendary athletes you talk about for years to come. I think that's safe to say with the Arizona State running back. We thought maybe on Saturday he had broken through nationally and would get some consideration for the Heisman Trophy. That was not the case this evening as Skattebo was hit with a Heisman Trophy stiff arm by the voters the same way he trucks defenders on the football field. So let's get a perspective. Let's talk to a Heisman voter, a man who's no stranger to these very airwaves on Arizona's Family, the longtime sports anchor for Arizona's Family Sports, Brad Cesmat, who you can still see on Arizona's Family Sports Nightly doing his show. Brad, how are you this evening? Do you feel snubbed like so many other sports fans around the Valley?
Well, Mark, it's good to see you. I think if you look back at Jake Plummer and the Heisman, I think if you look back, I covered Marshall Faulk in 1992 before I moved over here, and he got screwed. It wasn't even a snub. Like Gino Torretta, are you kidding me? Herschel Walker, if you go all the way back to the 80s, he got hosed. George Rogers was in South Carolina. The Heisman in this day and age, Cam Skattebo, and I can't tell you who I voted for or even where I put people on the ballot. That's just part of the drill. There's 870 of us across the country that are Heisman Trophy voters, 928 total. There's a bunch of former college stars that vote as well. So the way that this is stacked up, it was stacked against Cam Skattebo to begin with. Most Heisman Trophy voters couldn't even tell you who Cam Skattebo is, in my humble opinion. Most could not spell his name for sure. And if you look at how it started for ASU, when you're picked to finish last in a conference, you're already off the radar. And football out here is, unless you're in Texas, and you would admit to this, unless you're in Texas, basically football east or west of the Mississippi. West of the Mississippi doesn't exist. And so if it's a quarterback at Miami of Florida who ends up being invited, it's fine. Did Miami of Florida make the college football playoff? I'm just wondering. If it is a very talented two-way player at Colorado who was on national television in great time slots most every week, ABC and Fox and ESPN would put Colorado on because of the Dion factor. And they'd be on at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 12:30. They weren't buried at night. And if they were in prime time, it was against a big-time opponent. Did Colorado make the college football playoff? I'm just wondering. If you look at this very talented running back up at Boise State and the job that he has done, my opinion, he's one of the top players in the country. And he deserves to be there on the blue rug. Did he play in a conference as difficult as the Big 12? Now, people would say the Big 12 is not that difficult. I don't know. Did Cam Skattebo play against an SEC team this year and took care of business there?
Ran over like 30 of them.
So, and then there's Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel's the quarterback at Oregon, number one ranked team in the nation, prime time in the Big Ten, which means you're going to get prime television slots. And that's where a kid like Cam Skattebo can come out of nowhere and put up amazing yards, put up equally or if not better yardage comparison head-to-head against some of these guys, and he gets left off. But he has his belt that he won Saturday down in Texas. He has, I would think, a big chip on his shoulder. If that sort of thing is a reason to motivate a kid like Cam Skattebo, great. Probably has been motivated enough to go from Sacramento State to Arizona State. And now try to get into the NFL where it was, well, he's too small, he's too this, he's too that. And now you're probably hearing the same thing, Mark. You talk to NFL people, 4th round, 5th round pick, Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take him on the Cardinals special teams right now and maybe hand him the ball a couple times a game. I do want to see how he holds up against a Clemson or a Texas just with the speed and the power of the defense. Let's table that discussion for now because I have a couple more Heisman questions. Was there room? Are you able to tell me, was there room for 5 to get 5 to New York City? Or was 4 all they could take? 4
is all they could take. Is there room for 5? Sure. Sure, but it's kind of like the CFP. Alabama sitting there today saying we should be in and we're number 13. You could always say, well, what about this guy?
I just feel like it's a celebration of college football. Like, how could you not have this kid? And another thing, I feel like the Heisman Trophy finalists is like, if we produced the show at 6:30 and it was going to air at 10:30, could it have been a case where some of the Heisman voters had voted before the Big 12 championship?
Oh, there's no question they do, Mark. That's the thing about the Heisman. Like, I've been doing this vote for many, 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 many years. And there are people that are in the business that you speak to offline, away from all of it. And you say, so what are you thinking? What are you thinking? And then you get pounded with the people that are promoting, the universities that are promoting their athlete. Did Arizona State promote Cam Skattebo for Heisman Trophy this year? No. Should they have? No. This really came on our radar screen around first part of November. And Kenny had every right to push him out there if he wanted to. And I think that ASU did. This isn't a swipe at them. They could not have foreseen this coming. And by the way, this is not a team, as you know. Kenny's not set up to have this be about one dude. It's not like this is one guy team and the rest of you guys aren't as important. I don't think this is something that Cam Skattebo is going to look at 20 years from now and say, I got snubbed, I got screwed. I don't. Did he? Yes. Yes, he did. But feels to me like he's the kind of guy that I'm going to go do my business. I'm going to go be the next Marshawn Lynch or Mike Allstott, because that's who he looks like. That's who he plays like. This one NFL scout gave me the Marshawn Lynch comparison. And I'm going to go do my thing at the next level.
At the next level, so you're saying 4th or 5th round pick, which, I mean, when you think about the great stories, the Jake Plumbers, the Pat Tillmans, going back to Mount Rushmore of Arizona State, Frank Kush is on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, you think about probably those three. There's some other names in there for sure, but is Cam Skattebo doing enough to be a Mount Rushmore guy his last year here at Arizona State? Well,
I think in that space, you got to find a bigger mountain. Because, how do you say to Terrell Suggs, yeah, you're not there?
Right. Yep.
How do you go about that? And you really can't. Pat, of course, Jake, but Danny White, and I'd say Jeff Van Rapphorst, what he was able to accomplish. And if you look at where the program was when Jeff was there, Curly Culp was a very good Sun Devil, great Sun Devil.
Houston Oiler. Yep.
Mike Haynes, one of the best defensive backs, Darren Woodson. So, the history, the tradition, Coach Kush would have to be on that mountain. You could throw a lot of names at it if you're talking about Arizona State football, but I think, Mark, it's more the idea that he's not even going to get an invite. I never expected him to win.
Right.
I thought, silly me, that there'd be enough people that saw him on Saturday. Because think about it. The U of A ASU game was played opposite of Alabama-Auburn. There's not a guy down the South watching, who's this Cam Skattebo kid? It was played the same day as Ohio State-Michigan. It was, so you could go right down the list of who really saw Cam Skattebo play. This is a bigger conversation, but I'm really getting in the weeds on this, but this goes all the way back to the incompetence and ineptitude of the former Pac-12 commissioners, George Kliavkoff and Larry Scott. They've completely damaged this brand where a kid like Cam Skattebo bounces from the Pac-12 conference over to the Big 12 conference, who's already behind the Big 10 and already behind the SEC in media appearances and coverage. And so that kid gets shortchanged.
Right. But how much do you think this is going to be motivation now for a guy like Scat, who's looking to put a chip on his shoulder about something, and it's just going to motivate him, potentially the team, and Sun Devil Nation even more to show out in the Peach Bowl?
I think that stuff sounds good, and I'm not going to dispute it. Only he could tell us. I feel like the motivation for this team may be for him because he's on the national stage, and the team wants to turn around and say, we're going to grind a little bit more because this guy did not get the attention that he deserved. I thought during the broadcast of Saturday's Big 12 title game that Jesse Palmer and Joe Tessitore actually took the time to start having a real conversation about Cam going to the Heisman. It's the first time any big names even brought up Heisman. Nick Saban the week before said, oh, I love him. He's my favorite player. But he didn't say he's got to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy, because the voters then wake up and say, oh, wait a second. If Nick Saban is saying that there's this kid at Arizona State who was picked to do nothing at the start of the year, but guys on the East Coast are not going to be awake when Arizona State is playing a late night game out here. So voters in the Southeast, they don't even know Arizona State exists. They're the ones that call them the Arizona Sun Devils and the Arizona State Wildcats. No, that's not how it works out here, guys.
Right.
You know, how often does that happen?
Because
we are off the radar.
It's super disappointing. And to not even be a Doak Walker Award finalist as well. I just think I really thought McAfee talking about Skattebo last week on ESPN was going to be something. And you got Matt Berry, who's a Sun Devil, who's the college game day host. I just thought it would resonate more. I feel like we need to get you in a room with the Heisman voters and shake down some thunder a little bit, because it's just, there's just a lack of awareness. And I think maybe, that the Pac-12 thing has just kind of made it out of sight, out of mind.
Well, if you're going head to head, let's just go through these guys. If you're looking at Hunter, you're looking at Colorado, you're looking at Big Brand, you're looking at a coach that's going to be lobbying for him, who, by the way, is on one of the biggest stages, and every last media outlet is looking at Dion. Was every last media outlet looking at Kenny Dillingham at the start of the season? No. Kenny knows that. Dylan Gabriel, okay, same deal. Here he is up at Oregon. Here he's got Dan Lanning, the media is in love with Dan Lanning. They're in love with Oregon, and they've got the wherewithal to go out and do the promoting of a player like him. Genty is a terrific story up at Boise State. He's right there with Cam, in my opinion, of if you look at the two of them and what they do, I take the side of the street of, it's against the Mountain West, which isn't as good as the Big 12. Let's just get that right out there.
Right.
Mountain West people will say, oh, you're crazy, or this, or that. I don't know what to tell you. The fifth place team in the Mountain West versus the fifth place team in the Big 12, there's really no comparison. Cam Ward, that's the one that I looked at. And
they lost to Sarah. They didn't finish strong. I mean, they got knocked out. That's not leading your team. You can't be the best player if you do not lead your team. And clearly Cam Skattebo has led his team. So let me think. Okay, is this a fair question? If you can't answer this question, we should have like a code word, like that'll be like
I'll do
Stromboli or something. Okay, so are you able to say who you think will win the Heisman on Saturday?
Who I think will win the Heisman on Saturday? Yeah, I can say it'll probably be Hunter from Colorado.
Is there any chance Genty wins it and we have the Heisman winner out here playing in the Fiesta Bowl? What would you put his odds at?
Again, he's playing in a small market, hasn't been on enough national games. I think he's worthy of it. Again, it's not like, let's just back out of this for a second. It's not like you look at those two players in particular, and even Dylan Gabriel, and say, you know what, if they win, it's a bad choice. The idea that Cam Skattebo has been snubbed for the Heisman Trophy sounds good, reads good. Those players have produced, and you can make the argument. My argument is Cam has done a lot that has gone unnoticed and underappreciated. And if we're talking about the best of the best, who's in the college football playoff? There's two guys. There's two guys that are left. What do their numbers look like? And you could take my vibe from there.
Right. Well, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the perspective as always. And I think this is something that the Sun Devil Nation is going to ride the momentum of a snub, and it's all right. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. I've watched a lot of college football. If I was on the East Coast and watching this guy, I would want to learn more. And I think this might be reason to rethink the system if he can't even get a look.
Well, I would like to say I had that thought with Marshall Faulk all the way back in 1992. It was a complete joke. It was just a brand. It was a guy playing for a brand. And Cam Skattebo is going to have his own group of supporters, and they're going to just say, that's our guy. And if it's using the snub side of it, when Cam was at Arizona, when they did the deep dive on him, Mark, when Cam Skattebo was at Arizona State in his senior season and Heisman Trophy didn't even invite him for there, they'll ask him, so how did it make you feel? Well, what do you mean, how did it make me feel? So they're going to go do what the amazing story of the year needs to be what is celebrated and what he has been able to accomplish. And yeah, there's a moment of, that's really disappointing, because I'm disappointed. I've got a vote. I didn't turn my vote in until about 8 hours ago. I wanted to look at the whole body of work from everybody over championship weekend. And there's some people that just want to get their votes in and get it out of their inbox. I've never been that.
Well, we appreciate all you do for Valley Sports, and I think I know who you voted for. I'm going to maybe come down there and buy you a cocktail or two and try to get the answer out of you. Maybe not live on the air. But hey, thanks so much for your time tonight. And we look forward to seeing you very soon on Arizona's Family Sports. I'm sure discussing many of the same topics we're talking about.
Anytime.
So continuing our conversation, we went downstairs to get into the newsroom and talk to another member of our team, our Arizona's Family Sports team, who has a show that airs on Arizona's Family Sports. He's wearing his Steelers stuff, but you know him as the host of Speak of the Devils, Brad Denny. Your reaction tonight to Cam Skattebo not getting an invite to New York as a Heisman finalist?
It's a Travis Sham mockery, to bring back some of the old advertising lingo. Yeah, it's very unlike. He should be there. I get why he's not. I think ASU also could have maybe done some better promotional stuff, because I'm a voter for a lot of awards, and my inbox for the last several weeks has been flooded with emails from this school and that school for this player for the John Mackey Award, Lou Groza, because it really is just in a lot of ways just hyping up a marketing campaign. I mean, obviously, I think there's all the 4 guys that did make the finalist, very worthy, but we've seen times where there's 5, and so I think what you saw from Scat all season long, and then finally getting maybe the last 3 weeks, it seems like maybe the national folks are starting to really take notice of what he's able to do, and then all of a sudden what he did to Iowa State with the exclamation mark. I think he should be there, but again, it's ASU, it's West Coast football. Unless you're Oregon or USC, it's going to be a steep hill.
Well, I just think people turned in their ballots early. I don't think if anybody likes college football, they would have taken notice. And Cam Ward, what are we doing here?
You can't lose to Syracuse and be in New York,
right? Like how is that how is that best player in college football worthy? Maybe if you're voting in September, maybe some of these people voted in September. I think Travis Hunter probably should win the award.
Oh, I think 100% he's winning. He should be.
It's a celebration of college football.
I don't know why they allow votes to come in until after the final conference title game, right? That's a simple fix. Like, watch everything, get the totality of the data, and then cast your informed vote.
How much do you think this is going to motivate a guy like Scat?
You saw what he did to Iowa State, and I think part of that was because he was passed up by Shedeur for Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, even though Scat had won Offensive Player of the Week 5 times. Hands down, I think Shedeur won it once. So and Scat missed the game, so it's like nearly half the time he was eligible for the award, he won it. Best offensive player in the entire conference, and yet not for or when you take the whole season, he was deemed not the most outstanding offensive player. So I think that was a part of it. No, I don't think that he's driven by awards, individual acclaim, or anything. And a really cool story was after he got the WWE belt as the most outstanding player, he went and he got his offensive line to sign the belt and autograph the belt as recognition of, I'm nothing without them. But there's also a bit of, it's Cam. There's some swagger to him.
Right.
And so, there was at the podium after the game, I'm the best running back in America. And so I think that when he has that opinion of himself, and you see the external media not give him his due, I think you mentioned not a Doak Walker Award finalist. What are we doing here?
Seriously, do you watch college football? Seriously.
Yeah.
What did we see on Saturday?
Yeah, Ashton Genty, he's gonna win. He should win all the awards, right. And he's gonna break Barry's record. And
I can't wait to watch him play in the Fiesta Bowl.
It's gonna be great.
Wait. Penn State's defense, sign me up. I think that's gonna be a very, kind of non-marquee game that we're gonna be like, that was a really good football game.
Yeah,
assuming that SMU isn't there, which I take too because I love their quarterback.
Yeah, so I think he's deserving of all the things. Should be in New York. Should win the Doak Walker, but to not have Scat be in that conversation, I just think again it goes back to maybe just an awareness issue, because ASU came in as to the season dead last, so not a whole lot of attention paid, and only like over the last 5-6 weeks, maybe the national media, the college football landscape taking a notice of them. I think ASU missed a golden opportunity. I hope they don't make the same mistake with Sam Levitt next year and perhaps the year after. Get that hype train rolling early.
Joey Harrington, when I was in Oregon,
Yes.
there's a banner of him in Times Square. Put it in Times Square next year. Do they have the NIL money to do that?
It's getting better.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. So I think you're starting to see the activation of the Valley, as Kenny likes to say. You're seeing a lot of those big, deep-pocketed folks, putting in. And so,
who's showing up? Is anybody new? Do you know of anybody new? I mean, it was like Burrito Express. I mean, Santan Ford and Tim Hovick. Santan Ford.
He has been rolling it out.
Right. I mean, that guy deserves like some applause. Sun Devil Joe, they hit you up yet?
No, but I did become a season ticket holder.
What did that run for next year? Are you able to say?
Yeah,
your Heisman?
$424
to go see every Sun Devil home game with decent seats.
Yep.
I mean, that's a steal.
280 of it went to the Sun Angel Foundation.
Oh, so you got somebody's got a new pair of shoes out of the whole deal. Awesome.
And I think also, you also have player buy-in as well. I mean, Sam Levitt said 100% of my merch sales going back to my teammates, going back to the collective to help my teammates. So that's just, I mean, obviously that's not, going to be like, it should be or shouldn't be like the spine of your whole endeavor. But you see the buy-in, and you're starting to see those big, the Tim Hovicks of the Valley, really starting to put the money where their mouths are. And like, as rising tide lifts all ships. Let's see what they can do.
James Harden. I wonder if James Harden's giving some money to the collective there.
Hey.
Get Derek Hagan in here. Terrell Suggs.
Paul McCartney's wife. Sun Devil.
Right. Paul McCartney's. Yes.
How did I not know this?
ASU put a picture on Instagram of McCartney with Sparky, and he's doing the pitchfork.
Why was I not
there?
Oh my gosh, that's got to get in Speak of the Devils this week, right? Is it already? When Speak of the Devils air?
It airs. The podcast will be dropping on Tuesday night. The TV show airs on Arizona's Family Sports Network Thursdays at 7:30.
All right, we'll be watching. Last question for both of you guys, both Sun Devil supporters, athletic supporters, if you will. Is Cam Skattebo a Mount Rushmore guy for Arizona State football if you could only pick 4?
So that's interesting because like in the middle of the second half, I tweeted that out from AT&T Stadium because like parents, it's about time we have the conversation. Is Cam Skattebo? And I mean it's preposterous on one hand because he's just 2 years. And, one of those years was a 3-9 debacle. However, I mean, in terms of just all the great Sun Devils and in terms of the instant impact and the key role he's had in revitalizing a program that has been worse than ashes under Herm Edwards to a college football first round bye caliber team. And just the way he's captured the hearts and minds of the Valley. I mean, I haven't seen a player this popular since Jake.
Yeah.
And then you put in like what should be an All-American type season, regardless of whatever the awards folks say. I mean, and he's rewriting the record book. I mean, if he continues on his pace, at least one more game, a lot of those things are going to be pretty hard to reach in the future years. So it's hard.
Yes, you put him on the mountain. A mountain.
I would say
Kush,
I had a couple
Plummer.
hundred responses, and I had I would say like 80% of the ASU fans had.
Do you
said,
cut
yes.
Suggs, or do you cut Plummer, or do you cut Kush, or do you cut Tillman?
I mean, I think you have to have Jake and Pat. You're including coaches, Kush, and then
maybe you just don't include. You got to include Kush.
So that's the
Joe,
thing.
what do you think? Who's on your 4 Mount Rushmore?
See, I do it by players I saw and I was on campus for and after. So I've got on in 2000.
So you've got who's the Tom Pace, the guy who cleans swimming pools.
I do love
Todd
Tom
Heap.
Pace. Brad tweeted a video of him recently. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy was great. But I was here for like Archuleta's last year, Heap's last year. Suggs was the same year as me.
That's a good crew.
Those are all greats. And Walter's my guy, on and off the field. But Skattebo is just, I mean, I call him a living legend just because, like what Brad just said. And people in my circle who aren't college fans, like I've turned them on to watch ASU, and they're like, this guy's incredible. Like,
right.
He's like he never goes down. I got to watch him all the time, and that's kind of the player he has become. He is must-see TV.
So why is no one watching? Why? What are Heisman voters? I'm done.
East Coast bias, man. Yeah, it's a thing, and that's why I think ASU heading into next year is going to be a top 10, 15 preseason team. Unlike they're not going to be coming out of nowhere like they did this year. Get the Sam Levitt hype train going early, because I didn't see anything really promotion. Like you see programs out there that have advertising campaigns. When Ed Oliver, was, they sent out to all
Houston.
Houston sent out these awesome like bobbleheads of him riding his like pet horse,
right?
And it was like people are still talking about, like, voters still talk about that.
Seneca Wallace at Iowa State 20 years ago, they put his head on the Sphinx and sent it to. I got it in Medford, Oregon. Every single TV station in the country got it. So we need to start thinking about Sam Levitt. Sam, I do like Sam.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll workshop this and get back to it. Okay. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Of course.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and EasyFamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.